absolutely wild as Vern Gagne's all-star wrestling goes coast to coast and continent to continent. The greatest wrestlers in the world.
He may be an apprentice carpenter, but I guarantee you he is a seasoned ring veteran.
I've been hit with bar stools, bar rags, barmaids.
I'm talking to you.
They're scared that Hulkamania's still running wild. Oh, yeah. I got a big fat wife and 9 kids at home, and I gotta feed them.
And take a look at Jesse the Body in real life.
Open your hand once if you would.
You want the stick?
This is absolutely unbelievable. Totally, completely out of control.
He's coming in over the top. Hey! Look out!
Hey, look out! Nah, doesn't quite hit the same. Doesn't quite hit the same, does it, Mick and Joe?
Nope.
Hey, look out! Oh, there's Mick. There's Mick. Okay. What's going on, guys? I heard you guys went to tropical, beautiful paradise of lovers, Waterloo.
It was tropical, all right.
Yeah, that's what I hear. You got a gamut of weather.
Boy, we got everything. You know, we got thunder boomers that woke us up in the middle of the night, and it was a little rough go there for a while, but we made it. We had a good time. Got lots to talk about.
Yeah. So you said Thunderbolt, Patterson, and Boomers. Is that what Thunder Boomers, or am I missing something?
Boy, I know what you did there. I see it. Good start to the show.
Well, despite the weather, I survived an entire weekend with Mick.
You had no idea you were there. I don't know, between you and Joe Macco, I don't know who downed more beers. It was like, don't even get the expression this time. Do
you have proof?
Pixar, it didn't happen.
Okay.
You know what though, Joe? Between me having all my gummies and you having, apparently you were in a state of pure inebriation.
Not even close.
Not even close. Okay.
I had Iowan lemonade.
You notice what the common denominator is. We're in Waterloo with Mick.
Don't put the heat on me. No,
he's either a bad influence or we need to do that in order to spend the weekend with him.
Oh.
This is not going to turn into a burial of me, because I got stories about you, Chupik. Trust me.
I was not there. If you don't have pictures,
I will go. I would agree with that.
Hey, I'm no Bobby Bass, though.
Oh, nobody is.
I'm excited to talk about this, guys, because you guys, you went down to Waterloo to the George Tragos Thesz Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame weekend, and it's always a blast. My first time not being there in like 4 years, but again, I had personal dad things to take care of, so I didn't go, but this is the chance to catch up. But first of all, one thing before we do have to promote the pinfall membership. That's the only thing I'm going to do. I'm going to promote the pinfall here before we get into it. We've got a few more people that have signed up, which is awesome. I know, Pete, you're waiting for something. Chris Brooks and Steve Lardy as well. I know I've got emails I've got to respond to, but we've got a few more people that have signed up to become pinfall members since our last podcast. And I tell you what, for the most part, you're going to get the access to the podcast a day early, everything there on the screen, access to the exclusive monthly watch along. People love those. The weekly Back to Ringside with Mick and myself. You get a thank you letter, a sticker, and a magnet, and some pictures from Slick Mick's Picks. And we love it. We've got everybody that has been a part of it has also loved it. Oh, is that somebody's phone?
Nah, it's just my computer. I was installing some software.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe somebody was contacting you during the podcast, but that's okay. It means multitasking. That's how I want to look at it.
It happens pretty much every podcast. I just have most alerts muted.
Well, that's good. Don't mute them. Don't mute them. It makes you sound important. So let's kick this thing off by first thing that I noticed that it used to be at the Hall of Fame, and it used to be in like the wrestling room, believe. Apparently they switched venues this year for the welcome, like the Thursday night welcome. Is that
They
my
did.
understanding?
Yeah, they not only the Thursday night welcome, but pretty much all the activities. For the most part, the Hall of Fame Museum was shut down for the weekend. They had like a leaky water pipe or something, which we found out about when we got there, which in turn was actually kind of a nice deal for us because they moved all the activities over to the Waterloo Convention Center, which is right across the street from us. And, in there it is right there. And in Chupik's, inebriated state,
Oh,
all
come
he had to
on.
all he had to do was stumble across one roadway. He didn't have to walk the 2 or 3 blocks. So yeah, it worked out very well. Convention center, great place, but everything was held there. The opening welcome, the matches, the vendors, everything was right across the street. So it was a good deal. Everything turned out for the best.
I was never inebriated. So if you have 12 beers in a day, so what? You spread that out over 6 hours, you're doing okay. But I never did have an $18 Hawaiian punch, Mick.
Well, that's another thing. I forgot that we got screwed on that deal too.
But it got corrected.
Oh yeah, but it was good. Great venue, great hospitality, and we missed you, Chris. But next year, buddy, you'll be back.
Yep. Hopefully. So what were your first impressions, Joe? Because I mean, this was kind of you got that cherry pop this weekend. How'd it feel?
So I had to compose myself for a second there. That happens after you get your cherry popped, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I can summarize it by saying this. I will be going back next year. It was a tremendous weekend, reuniting with long friends, sort of being a part of the event. It was, if you're a wrestling fan, you should go to Waterloo for the annual Hall of Fame. That was in the lobby. I had just gotten to the hotel, checked in, and I saw Thunderbolt Patterson, and I went over and introduced myself. A little quick side note there. I did not know that Thunderbolt was a pastor. So when he asked me what brought me down, I told him, well, to see Ron Hutchison be inducted into the Hall of Fame with the Vern Gagne Trainer Award. He goes, well, when did you work with Ron? Well, then I told the Reverend or the pastor, whatever his title is, that it was with the Naked Women's Wrestling League. Then I was told that he was a Reverend. So,
He's totally judging you.
Yeah, well, he was great the rest of the week, and every time I saw him, I'd go and shake his hand. And I mean, he's a guy. He's a guy. He's a guy, and he's still alive. He didn't cringe. I think all he did was say, "Oh," that type of reaction when I brought up the NWWL. But Thunderbolt, what a nice guy, and certainly a legend in professional wrestling in his own right.
Yep, the King of Waterloo, Thunderbolt Patterson.
Isn't he from Waterloo? My understanding.
Yeah, he is, and they absolutely love the guy there. And it was great to see him. He's still, I don't know what he is, 84, 85 years old or something like that. But he's getting around. Good man, Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
So you apparently, and if I'm kind of skipping around, just kind of stop me here, guys. I know that I saw that you put online, and I haven't really talked to you guys since you've gotten back. But why was this one a little bit? I don't want to say personal, Mick, but like this one hit home for a reason, and I'm not sure. Kind of explain to me why.
I'm not sure either. I think it was, I kind of had a sense of melancholy this time in Waterloo. Sometimes I go down there, hey, you're having a good time. But I was just touched by all of it, by being there. Maybe it's, the advanced age. Maybe it's that a lot of people aren't here anymore that were here years past. But I kind of looked around at longtime friends and just thought, you know what, let's live in the moment here. And, the fact that it was so well done and everything really went off without a hitch. But I think, just from a personal level, it just got to be kind of reflective. And, this is what my life has been, pro wrestling. And some of my best friends in the business are right here. And there's a guy right there. Every time he would see me, we got kind of a running joke now that I try to avoid him, but he finds me. And that is no class Bobby Bass. And Bobby, who of course did a lot of wrestling up in Canada. I didn't remember that he had done some enhancement work for the WWF back in the day. But what a funny guy. Chris, Bobby Bass, you've met him. This guy is a clown, except for the big red nose. And it was just great. Well, Chupik had the big red nose, but Bobby Bass, every time you walked by, you never knew what you were going to get from him.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah, you
always knew you were going to get some kind of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, Mick. I mean, it's not like all of a sudden Bobby is going to say, "Oh, Mr. Karch, how are you doing, sir? I'm glad that you're okay." No. It's always going to be a smart-ass comment.
We want to get this guy in the podcast too, Chris. I'm sure he has some stories, whether we get him on Patreon or whatever. He was a gem.
That he was. I cannot wait to meet up with Bobby again next year. Yeah, God, we could have done this podcast just on our interaction with Bobby Bass.
No question.
So, I mean, you're already talking about next year, Joe. So this means that you're definitely going back. You enjoyed your first year. Like, what piqued your interest about going, like, this year and then deciding right now, I'm going to make sure that I go back there?
Well, my interest has been piqued, but going down there, well, first of all, being a part of the podcast, and then Ron Hutchison getting inducted to the hall with the Vern Gagne Trainer Award. Haven't seen Ron in 17 years. So it was great to go down there for that. You throw in there Eric Bischoff getting inducted, Medusa Michelli getting inducted, Baron getting inducted, and it had, and no, I don't want to dismiss the others, but having those AWA people, not Ron, of course, but having the AWA people get inducted, people that I worked with back in the AWA days. And as Mick had alluded, there's Baron. And as Mick alluded to earlier, you miss so many of the people that may have been there years before when I wasn't. But there's fewer and fewer and fewer old AWA people that are alive. And so to go to the event, to spend time with AWA legends, not to mention there's Eric and Deuce, and not to mention I just got to take a sec and thank Eric Bischoff during his induction speech. He referred to me as the Kevin Dunn of the AWA using equipment from Radio Shack.
I don't know why that pops me. I don't know why that pops me.
Well, he's not
wrong.
He's not wrong compared to what the WWF and WCW had. Yeah, AWA was local cable access 101. Right. But to refer to me as the Kevin Dunn who spearheaded the production for the WWF for so many years. It was unexpected, humbled by it, but mostly just, thankful that he gave me a shout out during his Hall of Fame induction speech. And
were you aware that he was going to
no,
mention you?
not at all. Not at all. In fact, I, went up to him afterwards and thanked him and gave him a hug. Got done with the hug and pulls away. He goes, "Hey, you deserve it." And that's what this is all about. And I'm like, I'll take it. I'm not going to, to be pissed off by or anything. It was just a truly special moment for me to have him include me in his Hall of Fame induction speech.
Wow.
It was a great moment. I was, Joe was a table over, but as soon as Eric mentioned his name, I looked over at Joe, and Joe's like, "Huh?" And it was quite a moment. I just a little bit different than the moment I had with Eric Bischoff. There was nobody was tossing me out of anywhere this time, although they probably should have. But first of all, I got to say something about Eric Bischoff himself. In the vendor room, everybody was selling autographs and pictures and so on and so forth, their own merchandise. First, Eric was not selling merchandise. There's Eazy-E, but he also wasn't charging anybody anything to go up and get a picture from him or get an autograph or whatever. He did it willingly, didn't charge a dime. And as far as I know, he was the only vendor that was not charging anything. I think that's a pretty classy thing to do. What's interesting about this is right at the moment when I said to Eric Bischoff after all these years, "Do you remember when you threw me out of the locker room at WCW Nitro?" He said, "No, don't remember that." They said, you were in town with WCW. They were doing a taping at the Target Center in Minneapolis, and you walked in and you saw me and you said, "What the hell are you doing here?" And I said, "I came in to say hello." You said, "Well, you said hello. Now get the fuck out of here." He said, "That sounds like me." that was his response. He said, "Boy, I was a sweetheart of a guy, wasn't I?" So I think in the scheme of things, Eric, Joe, I'm sure you'll agree with this. Eric has mellowed, if that's the word, matured, if that's the word, and he was having fun. And this was a very approachable Eric Bischoff, and that was good to see.
Yeah, I mean, in defense of Eric, throwing you out, first of all, kidding. But the situation, locker room, the pressures that he was on as the executive producer of WCW, him being younger, first time in that role. I don't want to say understand it, but I sort of do. Like I asked him why he never called me back to move down to Atlanta. And he goes, "Well, why do you keep bringing it up?" He knows. He just, that was then. This is now. I have a friendship with Eric. There's always bumps in the road in any relationship.
And
do you think that he was just overwhelmed then by everything at that point, guys? And he was just kind of so. It seemed like Eric at that point was the sort of guy that he's just looking ahead and like he just completely 100%. I am focused on this one job and I have to do it no matter what.
I don't know. It may have been that, Chris. Also, Brian Pillman had just passed away, and Eric was pretty close with Brian Pillman. So that was on his mind. I think more so you might have had a situation where Eric is basically not all that long into being an executive. He had gone really from the frying pan into the fire, so to speak. So, yeah, this was a lot to take on. He was a young guy. I think Eric will be the first to admit he had some habits that probably contributed to some of his behavior at the time or his attitude. But again, bottom line is not only having him on the podcast not that long ago, but talking to him now, I'm really impressed with the guy Eric Bischoff has turned into.
And especially after he did, what was that, Saturday afternoon when he went up and talked about Bash at the Beach.
Yes.
Very approachable. His answers were honest. He didn't pull any punches, and not that there was anything, groundbreaking or controversial that he said. But he was very. It was a fantastic weekend to spend with my old friend Eric Bischoff and others, including Mick. I'll have to concede that. Now, can we edit that part out of the broadcast?
Train left the station. Sorry, conductor. No,
I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Can you repeat that?
Nope.
Let me get 3, 2, 1.
Huh?
Okay. Well, yeah. I want to ask about some of the other inductees and kind of the podcast symposium and catching up with Medusa and some of the other people that we see on a yearly basis. But I want to talk about the wrestling show, because I think this was the SICW, and it wasn't Impact, which was Troy Peterson. Impact Pro Wrestling had been kind of the headliner in terms of wrestling shows. So this year, and it makes all the sense in the world with Troy stepping back, to have Herb Simmons bring his promotion, and it makes total sense. But I mean, kind of tell me about the show on Saturday, and then we'll kind of go back in time to Friday to the banquet.
I thought the show was very, very good. You've got a mix there of real green newcomers and guys that have been around for a long time. And you mentioned Herb Simmons bringing in Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling to the event. It's a hop, skip, and a jump for Herb to come up to Waterloo. He brought in a good crew, many of whom I had seen before. Top-notch card, top to bottom. A couple of clunkers here and there. Hey, you're going to have it on a indie show. Originally, they were scheduled to have 11 matches, but they cut it down to 7. That is Herb with Gloria Lovell. And honest to God, Gloria is, you talk about a stitch. She is so funny. We kind of had a running joke where I was looking for the silent auction room. And, Gloria would, I don't know, was here a minute ago, that kind of thing. Between Gloria and Herb, you have 2 grade A USDA choice people right there. And they certainly enhanced the week. As far as the card itself, I would say to me, there were 2 highlights, 2 real highlights on that card. And I think Joe will agree with me. One was a young lady that we had seen for the first time, and they billed her at about 6'5", and I'm guessing she was probably 6'3", 6'4" anyway. And that she was billed as Lilith Khan, and she kind of plays the Mongolian bizarre female wrestler giantess, and she did great. I don't know how old she is, Joe. I would guess maybe 19, 20, 21 tops. And she just played the role of the heel to a T. Had an opportunity to talk to her at the lobby in the hotel. And I just said, for as long as you've been in the business, you are amazing. She's going to go places. There's no doubt about it.
And if I'm not mistaken, she hasn't even been in the business a year yet. I think it was last October that she started. She did great, as you can expect. I mean, less than a year into the business, there's some greenness, some roughness around the edges, but that's going to happen to pretty much any wrestler who's only been in the business for that short of a time. But yeah, she is the very least, a legitimate 6'3" to 6'4". Yeah. It's professional wrestling. It's been known to sort of add numbers onto things. You know, I didn't want to shock anybody any wrestling fans out there, but but no, she was very pleasant, very nice, very personable. Wish nothing but the best for her in the business.
You know what I like about these shows, when you've got these, you know, performers that are really new, really green. And I think I said this to you last year, Mick, when we were sitting with the Headings. We were just kind of sitting by the entrance ramp, just, you know, kind of watching everything. If there's going to be a card anywhere in the world on the calendar, and you're going to have, you know, new wrestlers that are going to be making one of their earliest appearances and working in front of a crowd, it's a very forgiving crowd. If there's something that's botched or it doesn't look good, I think the crowd there understands that this is a process. It's a work in progress, and they're much more sympathetic and understanding. And it's not going to be, you fucked up. It's not going to be like, it's a warm crowd, and they understand what it is that they're watching.
Above and beyond an indie crowd. And that's interesting, because even at the indie crowds, you get some of the fans who are smart to the business, you know, and they'll do the chants that they hear and see on television. But you're absolutely right, Chris. Forgiving crowd. And they did not have a lot to forgive on this show. You know, there was a couple, like Joe said, couple of minor botches. Matter of fact, Herb came up to me after the show was over, and he said, on a 1 to 10 scale, how'd you like the show? I said, 7, 8, which is really, you know, considering, that's really good. Another guy, I don't know if we have his picture, but before
we get on to it, the one thing that I got to add, picture yourself as one of these indie wrestlers. You're wrestling at the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in front of many, many professional wrestling legends. Think about the nerves that they must have had going out to the ring.
Yeah.
It just, you know, they did a good job. They really did.
And they deserve the credit for being in that situation, because there are some people that, you know, be like, no, that's too much for me. Embrace the opportunity. Go out there and live and learn.
Yep.
You know, Cauliflower Alley Club was running shows for several years as well. And they would load up the card with maybe 15, 16 matches. And I think at one year they had a 55-person Royal Rumble. 5. You know, so even at, you know, coming in every 30 seconds, you're there for a long time. In comparison, I thought this show was tight. They took a couple of intermission breaks, but boom, 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 they're moving. The one guy that I want to talk about, and Chris, you know him very well, is James Jeffries. And James, they put James over for the Central States Heavyweight Championship. And, you know, I was a little bit surprised about that. You know, I don't know if it's got the actual lineage, of course, to the Bob Browns of the world. But James Jeffries, number one, he is so over with that crowd. Joe is talking about, you know, he's a combination of the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Rockers, kind of that throwback.
Killer Bees,
yep. But he is, number one, he's an extremely talented wrestler. For his, you know, he hasn't been in the business all that long, you know, a handful of years, relatively speaking. But boy, he's good, and he can work with anybody. And he was over like a superhero in the crowd. Plus, outside of the ring, you know, James Jeffries is one class act. So I think if there's a face of, maybe it's Iowa, you know, Southern Illinois, whatever, it might just be James Jeffries at this point.
Yeah, a couple of notes. He paid tribute to an old AWA wrestler, DJ Peterson.
Yes.
Saturday was 32 years to the day that DJ Peterson got killed in a motorcycle accident. So he paid tribute to DJ and stated that he was paying tribute to DJ Peterson. So that, again, another AWA connection that just warms my heart. But then I went up to him in the lobby after the matches before Mick forced me to go into the bar. Where
you're such a trooper, man. I
keep
applaud you.
Keep giving.
Man, you are such a good dude.
Well, you have to listen to your elders,
Uh-huh.
But anyway, so I went up to him and I complimented him, and I had pointed this out to Mick during the match. And Ron, I was sitting right next to both of them, right in between them. Jeffries got his left arm worked on extensively in the match. Literally, after that, he kept selling it. He would go, he's throwing punches. He would hold his arm down by his waist, even at the end of the match. Minutes later, gets his arm raised. He's still holding his left arm like it was injured. So I went up to him in the lobby of the hotel and I introduced myself. I hadn't met him yet that weekend. I introduced myself and just told him, I go, kid, thank you for continuing the sell and not getting the shit kicked out of you and then turning around and it's like the beginning of the match again. Thank you for helping me to believe.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he helped me do. So anyway, and just very nice. He was very appreciative. Calling me sir, thanking. I mean, it was just the kid's good.
Yeah, what I like about James is he's very approachable, very humble. He is there with his wife and his family, and everybody is respectful of him.
Yes.
And he is respectful of it's like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, just knowing that I think he's main evented every show that I've seen there. Like out of the 3 consecutive years that I've gone, he's main evented every show, but yet he's just one of the boys. And it's when you've got that kind of pressure on you and you've got that kind of profile, I just think that says something about you.
It does, and we'll move off of James here, but I want to add to what you were saying, Chris. This guy, I don't think he feels pressure. He fits right in. He doesn't miss a beat. He's such a professional, and he has a respect for the business.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say about James Jeffries. There's no pretense with this kid. He knows what he's supposed to do. He knows the psychology of the business. And I just wish he had a national audience. Maybe I don't. Maybe he's right where he needs to be.
Maybe this is where he wants to be.
Yeah, and not spoiled by what could happen down the road. But hats off to James. Great kid.
Agreed.
So let's go back to, because it used to be Friday night, the wrestling show, Saturday, the banquet. They flipped it. I want to kind of get into the banquet because sometimes banquets can be long and boring and arduous, and it's just something you're like, oh my God, I want this thing to end. But this year, I feel like there were so many personal connections for you guys. I just kind of want to, I want to kind of talk through everything. So first of all, just the overall, your thoughts on the banquet and all of the award winners.
I think the banquet was well done, and I always make the comparison between Waterloo and Cauliflower, and maybe it's just the glitz and glamour of Vegas, maybe it's the venue. The banquets at Cauliflower tend to go on and on. There's your award winners, and what a crew that is, and you're going to be surprised at a couple of these. But before I enumerate who these people are, This was really tight. There were a couple of speeches that maybe could have been cut in half. But nonetheless, I think it was typical of the whole Waterloo experience. Is just boom, boom, boom. Everything is done on a dime, and it really works well. The award winners. Let's start from the right. That is Jake Hager, and what a guy he was. Just the friendliest, most approachable guy. And yes, he wore his purple hat, Chris, at the the autograph signings. Plus perhaps the loudest beach bum outfit I've ever seen.
I love this hat.
Oh yeah, old purple hat.
I love this hat. It's better than We the People. Let me say that.
Jake is just a super duper guy, and I'm not sure he was feeling a lot of pain the second day of the autograph signing. But a great guy. Let's put that picture back up and just kind of scan who everybody is.
Oh yeah.
Next to Jake, that is Tim Hornbaker, and he was given the James Melby Historian Award. Done a lot for the wrestling business. Historian, author, great guy. There's Mr. Hutchison, Ron Hutchison, and I don't know that I have ever, and seriously, between Cauliflower and Waterloo, engaged with a guy who was more honored to be honored, genuinely, than Ron was. He's talked about going down there on Facebook weeks before the event. He knew he was getting this award, the Vern Gagne's Trainer Award. Loved the fact that he also paid homage to Vern during his acceptance speech. Well deserving. One of the nicest guys anywhere, Ron Hutchison. Of course, Eric Bischoff. Eric was very humble as well in his acceptance speech. Medusa gave a very eloquent acceptance speech when she got her award. Always great to see Medusa. Super duper lady. Next to her is David Crockett. And I didn't know what to expect from David Crockett, and Joe will tell you this as well. Before the banquet, everybody is kind of sitting around in, kind of a holding area, and David Crockett is working the room. He is going up to everybody, introducing himself to everybody. How you doing? Just the most amiable, pleasant guy in the world. Very humble. What I got out of his speech, he talked a lot about the role of the wrestling announcer in the business. And so much of what he said hit home with me. And I made it a point to go up to him afterward and say, you know what? I've been doing this for 40 years. Thank you for acknowledging what we do. Super.
What did he say about it that resonated?
It was kind of the role of what an announcer brings to the table. And if you don't have that announcer, painting the canvas for what's going on in the ring, or providing the soundtrack, knowing when to get involved, knowing when to take a step back and let the boys handle it and let the work speak for itself. But I was just touched by it. I just did not expect David Crockett to be as amiable and as open as he was. Super guy.
If I could just add one thing to that, Mick, sorry for interrupting you. What I loved when he had talked about it brought me back to the days where the announcers didn't have an executive producer or a producer in one IFB, and then they had a second one, but they didn't have somebody from the back telling them and to say this or don't say that, whatever. Back in the day, here's the match, here's sort of the angle. Let's free flow with it. Completely different times. Nowadays, I'm not putting down today's announcers by any stretch, but certainly a different world, and dare I say, a different talent set.
It's overproduced. It's like the entire industry. Well, not the entire industry, but I would say, especially for WWE, it's overproduced.
It's an infomercial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And to your point, Joe, and yours as well, Chris, the difference between then and even independent shows now, when I'm doing some of the, call the action, there's nobody in my headset, so I can kind of wing it, and when you're a big time announcer and they're making a ton of money, I can't argue it. And I know that they have to shill for the pay-per-views and so forth, but it's almost like it's a ventriloquist act because somebody's got their hand up their ass or in their ear telling them all the time what to say. Very, very distracting, but a very different world. And when Crockett was talking about old school stuff, and by the way, that notorious sickle that he took from Nikita Koloff on the air.
I'm sorry. I just.
Oh,
yeah, I remember that. I remember that vividly. It just like it popped into my head.
That was one of the most vicious sickles I think I've ever seen. And, and it was on David Crockett. But I talked to David about it a little bit. He knew the sickle was coming. But he didn't know when it was coming. So in that sense, I think there was an element of surprise, and he luckily wasn't decapitated. But, and a lot of wrestling fans who didn't like David Crockett say that's their greatest David Crockett moment was when he got sickled by Nikita Koloff. Ron Simmons. First of all, this guy is a physical monster. Joe and I were talking about it here that we go into the autograph room, and this guy's biceps are the size of Canada. I mean,
he's 66 years old.
Yeah, and he looked in phenomenal.
No pun intended.
Right.
Phenomenal condition. I don't normally pay for autographs. I want to say that up front. Ron Simmons was one guy. I had taken a picture with him in Atlanta back in 2011. I never figured I'd get the picture signed. I was more than willing to fork out even the extra $10 that they hit me up for once I got to Ron himself. But
that's the front of the line charge, Mick. That's a cut the line charge.
Oh, is that what? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a cut the line charge.
Or an aggravation charge because it's me. But Ron, it was like, where was this picture taken? Oh, I remember that. And then where do you want me to sign? What can I put? Hall of Fame, WWE, and just the most amiable guy in the world. Amiable, and his acceptance speech was terrific. He was inducted, needless to say, by JBL, talking about their genuine friendship, not only from a wrestling standpoint, from a human being standpoint, a black man and a white man that got together as a tag team and have become enduring friends over the years. And Ron got a little touched. He got a little emotional towards the end of his speech. It was just great to see and hear. The last gentleman looks a little bit different than he did back in the day. That would be Tank Abbott. And Tank Abbott certainly does not look like the Tank Abbott of the old WCW, UFC, MMA days. And Tank, again, you don't kind of expect the humbleness of the speech that you got from Tank Abbott. The only knock I would say on Tank's speech is that it might still be going on. We're not sure. It got to the point where one young lady in the back who was extremely disrespectful, even though the speech was going on, she says, we have deadlines, can we wrap this up? She yelled it out. Totally inappropriate, but Tank, another very, very humble guy. Great to hear his speech and his beginnings and his travels. And there's the class of 2025.
Was it somebody connected with wrestling, or was it a fan, or like who was it that mentioned it?
Joe, I think she had some connection. I don't know if it's like a superficial.
Said like a deadline, which tells me like she was writing an article or something.
No, she was bored.
Well, I don't know. First of all, Tank's speech. What I loved about it, he didn't go up there with any notes. Mm-hmm. He was talking from his head, and he was talking from his heart. Yes, it went on longer. Well, his was the longest speech of the night.
Yeah.
I get what she was saying. I know that people were getting a little bit restless. Tank could have cut it back. in the future, they could probably find a different way to be able to, just do the wrap up thing.
Couldn't they just say take it home? Couldn't there be somebody in the back just like rubbing their nose and it's like
somebody up by the stage, Chris? They do that at Cauliflower. Give them the wrap up signal.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Literally yelled out from the back of the room.
Yeah,
And
it
disrespectful.
It was awkward, but at the same time, I mean, the banquet went on. It was over 2 hours. I mean, it was about 2.5 hours with the acceptance speeches. That makes for a long night.
Try Cauliflower, Joe, where they go for 6 hours.
Well, that has no interest in me sitting here for that. For anybody, I'm sure, people were getting restless. It's like, okay, we've eaten, we've gone through several speeches, and then you got somebody going up there talking for 20-25 minutes
Easily.
Yeah,
easily. There's David Crockett, and we'll show that picture. But again, what a super guy, and again his approachability, and when he turned up at everybody's table and just glad handing everybody, hi, how are you, making jokes with everybody, unsolicited, says a lot about the guy he is.
I was surprised how short he was. He's not a tall man.
Speaking of tall men,
yeah.
Jake Hager and Gerald Briscoe, and Joe, you can talk to this. They're both Oklahoma guys.
Yep.
And there apparently was a little school rivalry going on, with their alma maters. And Briscoe took shots at Hager. Hager took shots at Briscoe about their respective alma maters. It was great fun. What's great about this, Chris, here's a little aside. Jake he's at his autograph table, and he's just arrived, and he's stacking his pictures and is neatly, and Jerry Briscoe comes by, mixes them all up, throws half of them on the floor, and Jake just kind of looks at him, you son of a bitch. Stacks everything up again. Jerry came back the other direction, did the exact same thing. After Jake has his stuff all stacked neatly, wound up all over the floor. But you could tell the genuine love they have for each other. And Jerry Briscoe's he's not a short guy. I mean, he's not the tallest guy in the world, but Jake Hager is a horse. When you get up next to him in person. And what you see there with Jake Hager and Jerry Briscoe, that's the personalities that you got when you were there.
Yeah, they're going back and forth about their different high schools. What was hilarious is it felt like two kids not going at it in a schoolyard, but just giving each other some good, fun shit, which really shouldn't surprise me because this is professional wrestling. We're all still kids when we deal with our industry.
Yeah. I want to get to the podcast stuff. I want to get to that a little later, but tell me about what did you call it? When you get there, did you call it Iowa Lemonade? Is that what you called it?
That's what it was.
Iowa Lemonade.
Yep. It was Gable beer, but it was Iowa Lemonade.
There it is right there. There's Dan Gable's beer. And by the way, Dan Gable has a little restaurant down the street from the Waterloo Convention Center.
Is that new? Did he have it before?
It's been there. I believe it was something else a couple of years ago, but this was just super food. Man, I mean, just out of this world, reasonably priced. And, that's enough putting that over. But the Gable beer was the hit of the weekend for my accomplice, Joe Macko, and also for Chupik. And where the Iowan Gatorade came in, Chupik, I believe, was on his 38th can of
what am I, Andre?
I think you would have put Andre under the table.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, come on. Good job, boss. Good job,
Come
boss.
on, nothing. You had a hole in the bottom of your can, apparently.
It
Both
was
of them.
humid. It evaporated.
There's no way there's going to be any evaporation with you, pal. You know, give you 2 humps and you're a camel walking down the streets of Waterloo. But where the Gatorade came in, we're walking out of the convention center, going back to the hotel, and of course, I don't remember if Chupik was two-fisting at the time or whatever, and I'm talking about the beer. And I said, my God, don't you ever put that down? He's one of my first beer. I said, your first beer. And that's when he referred to it as Iowan Gatorade. If that was Iowan Gatorade, boy, those athletes in Iowa must be really hydrated.
Well, I've got to say that the Iowan Gatorade was fantastic. It was my drinking option of choice. But let's get back to the grilled chicken sandwich was not so 2 days in a row, but I've called it the best chicken sandwich I've ever had.
Joe's freezing on my end. Is he freezing on your end, Chris?
Yeah, he's freezing on my end too.
Back?
No. Hold on. Let me. I think I can do. Oh, so yeah, I thought it was lemonade. You know what? Let me see if I can put this picture. Because Joe's. Oh, there he is. Because I was gonna put the beer right next to Joe, so it looked like he was drinking the beer and he was in like a still shot, like.
Well,
but
I'm just saying the trip down to Waterloo for the Hall of Fame weekend, going to Gable's Brewery is worth it. What, am I freezing again?
Yeah, you were frozen kind of in beer and on rafts and claw.
You look like you're in a Nintendo 8-bit game, and we're trying to play it on like a Nintendo Switch. We're trying to play the original Mario Brothers on a Nintendo Switch, and you look like a Lego. You look like a Lego that's having a seizure.
Well,
boy, that's a descriptor.
Well, I'm not wrong.
No.
Okay, there he is. Now he's back in focus. I feel like I had a few of those Iowan Gatorades.
Yeah, I'm working off of a Wi-Fi off my laptop. Something a little different today. I think I'll get hardwired in for next
A little
week.
different, yes.
But at any rate, the Dan Gable beer was a hit with everybody. I mean, everybody that tried it, from Joe to Joe Macco to Lenise Hennig, they were all over the and Hank. We're all over the Gable beers. So,
hey, by the way, I do have. I don't know if you guys knew this. Here's a picture of you guys showing up. Very classy.
Show the real pic. That's staged.
Yeah.
Well, no, but see,
don't ruin the bit, Chupik.
No, that's when you guys were there. But
real you.
This is when Mick told you stay away from the Iowan Gatorade.
There we go.
Must have
now
Gatorade.
Joe is right. That first picture where they said, "Now behave yourself, you guys," you know, at least for 30 seconds while we take this picture. But then the real Chupik comes on. And you notice he's doing a double-handed choke. This guy is real serious about strangling me to death. I, on the other hand, first of all, it's 9 feet to reach under that guy's Sergeant Slaughter-like chin. But then I'm only doing one arm. And this guy, maybe it's the 6'7" chins I have that he had to get his hands around. But
I think that's it.
Mick, I had to make good on the promise to people who paid me to fully choke you. And I did.
You must be a millionaire after that then, pal.
I'm short $999,999.75. And that extra quarter I found on the floor.
Well, let me say this, because this will lead into the next picture. One of you guys talked about Ron Hutchison, and the individual that inducted him. One of the bits that he had in WWE, and you guys know, for the benefit of those with flash photography, that was your 5-second pose. And I say that because this was more than a 5-second pose with you guys and Ron Hutchinson getting the Vern Gagne Trainer Award.
This was so great. Joe, myself, Ron Hutchinson, and of course, Adam Copeland, who, if he's not the Ron Hutchinson trainee, there's a lot to choose from. Christian, Trish Stratus, Beth Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's impressive. Like what Ron has done, even without having Adam Copeland, super impressive. I mean, his resume is really, really good.
And his training methods are, believe me, they're Vern Gagne-like. I mean, he came by this award honestly. Ron he's a taskmaster when he gets into the training. Adam Copeland really put Ron over, in his induction speech. We find out later on that Adam Copeland wasn't feeling very well this particular night. I think he had a flu bug or something else, and he had a 5 o'clock in the morning flight back home. So he was a real trooper to be there. But this was so great to have Adam and Ron and Joe and myself in this picture. To me, this is my favorite picture of the whole trip.
Adam was as pleasant and approachable as a wrestler should be.
Yep.
But even beyond so, he was just like a regular guy when you would talk to him. I can't say enough good things about Edge. I mean, just an incredible human being. Got to sit at the table with him. He was on the other side of Ron. And can you say, is there a bad word you can say about him, Mick?
No, he was. And again, the guy's not feeling good, and he's in this banquet setting where he's got to be approachable for everybody and put on the game face. And he certainly did. And I had met him a couple of times before, just a super, super guy. And again, I want to congratulate Ron Hutchinson. Can't say enough good things about Ron. This was a well-deserved, long overdue accolade for Ron.
I would love to get Ron on. I mean, that's one of the disappointments. That's one of the because I know this.
I asked him about that, Chris. I said, we got to get you on the podcast. And his response, without even flinching, he said, for you, I'll do it, but I hate doing them. He says, I just do not like doing pod. Yeah, maybe he's a pretty humble guy, Ron. He's very, very quiet, which belies, of course, his training methods. But he said, for you guys, I'll do it. And we're going to get Ron on the show. And boy, has he got the stories.
Yep. All right. So I'm just looking over some of the notes here. I know there's a couple more things. The podcast presentation, I know that what we've done over the past few years is it's ebbed and it flowed as they're kind of like moving things around and figuring out how to best kind of work everybody that's there. What did they do this year? Was it a symposium? Was it a roundtable? Like what did they do and what did you guys do?
It was Slick Mick and Polish Joe. That was it. What was interesting, on the back of the ticket, on the back of the All Access Pass, it has the itinerary for the day. And then it says at 11 o'clock, at podcasts, etc. We had no idea what we were going to be doing. Chad Olson, the night before, even the morning of, had no idea what the order of events was going to be. So Joe and I just kind of meandered into the meeting room there. We had an audience.
Was this at the Hall of Fame or was this at the convention center?
Everything was at the convention center.
Okay.
So we're in there and we went up to the front of the room, took a couple of microphones in hand, and started answering questions about the AWA. To Joe's credit, he took over at first and really warmed everybody up, kind of gave everybody our background. We had great response afterward. And the reason I say that is because I'm starting to get messages from people God, we loved you guys at that AWA podcast. There were stories that you told that we had no idea. Thoroughly loved it. And one of the participants in the podcast was kind of a surprise guest, and that was Medusa, who came in and sat down listening to the podcast. Joe addressed a couple of questions to her, and Deuce was involved as we were towards the end of the podcast, telling the stories of the old AWA. But the experience itself, so laid back, so great. People were so interactive, and just couldn't have gone better.
Yeah, Mick, would you say it's fair to say that the recent uptick in new members may have been because of this weekend?
I would think so. And if not, I think you're going to have a trickle-down effect, Joe. I think it's going to, the people who, not only at the podcast, and Chris, you and I experienced this when you have been there. People are so complimentary, not only to, a guy like me who's done this forever, but to the podcast, to the history of the AWA. It's like, my God, I was an AWA fan growing up, and outside of our interaction, where are they going to get this? They're not going to get any AWA stuff out there. So we're kind of the conduit to days gone by.
I can't wait till next year. Hopefully it does work out and all three of us can be down there.
Absolutely.
If we are all able to be down there, then let's set it up with the Hall of Fame or with the people and do an AWA podcast, which reminds me, Chad came up to me afterwards and said that he did record it, Chris, and that he's going to be sending you a link. So maybe that's something we can just throw onto our Patreon or, whatever, just a little added bonus. But I mean, I was just so impressed with the entire weekend. I'll tell you how impressed I was with the organization that put this on. I went up to Chad afterwards and I said I'd like to get involved and offer my expertise in graphic design and video stuff. And I threw out some ideas to him for next year's Hall of Fame. So I will be donating my time to do some things for next year's banquet.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna keep throwing up some random pictures here. I want to talk about the trivia and the silent auction. So which one do we want to? We want to talk about the apparently another Waterloo screw job with the trivia again.
Yeah,
it seems to be a theme. Or are we going to go with the silent auction?
Well, no. Let's talk about the trivia, but let's talk about the guy on the screen right there. That, of course, is Bill DeMott. And it's interesting. Old Hugh Morris and the WCW days. Bill DeMott has a reputation that kind of you would never know by interacting with him. You hear a lot of stories about how Bill DeMott at training, breaking guys in was a little rough, to say the very least, almost brutal. But the Bill DeMott that you met at Waterloo, nice, humble guy, laughing all the time, hanging out with the Simmons and the JBLs of the world.
Well, he was Hugh Morris, so I mean, of course he's going to laugh. He's going to have a sense of humor.
Super guy and a massive individual. I'm sure you can tell at that photograph. I don't know how much he weighed in his wrestling days, but I think he's packed on more than one cheeseburger over the years.
And here's a boogeyman
and a wrestler named the Boogeyman.
And a boogeyman, yes.
Yeah, of the two of them, obviously the guy on the left is far more scary. But he eats just as many worms. The difference is that he
gummy worms.
He washes them down with
tequila.
Yeah, gummy. But Marty Wright, the boogeyman, again, very, very approachable guy. I didn't have a chance to talk to him, but I saw his interaction with the fans. And of course, Chupik, there you go. That's an interesting looking hand he has there on your shoulder, Joe.
You take a look at him and he is the thing of nightmares, but the reality is he was approachable, extremely approachable. In fact, I talked to him for about 15, 20 minutes in the bar that Mick forced me to go into every day. And just
Such a trooper, Joe. God, I mean, you just.
I took one for the team, Chris.
You did, man. You were such a trooper. I can't tell you how thankful I am that you sacrificed yourself and your sobriety for the weekend.
I never drank before this weekend, and I guess, you know.
Anybody got a Tums or a Pepto here? I'm getting a little nauseous. You didn't take one for the team.
Yeah.
You took dozens.
Yeah.
For
Well,
the team.
you know what? You better recognize.
Oh, there we go.
Ow.
Joe, talk a little bit about, and D'Lo was doing the head bob periodically during the week as well.
I think I pulled my neck fat.
Yeah, look at him. Look at him.
This was Thursday night. I went up to D'Lo, introduced myself. We have a common friend in Nick Christie from Think Signatures. And when I brought up to D'Lo that Nick wanted me to say hi and that I did all of his graphics and stuff, we ended up talking for several minutes. That was our connection beyond wrestling. That was our connection for the weekend. And every time we'd see each other, you know, it was a fist bump, it was a high five, it was a smile with, I can't do the head thing, but fantastic person. I was told that by Nick Christie going into it. I can confirm and reaffirm that he is a class act. In fact, he had stated at the end of the Beers with Boys thing that not only will he be back, but he is going to make sure that he's going to bring, in his words, several of the boys to get their ass to Waterloo to be a part of this weekend. So be fun to see who he brings next year.
And another big boy. Oh my gosh. I think D'Lo has added a couple of pounds since his wrestling heyday, but he's just a super guy.
Yes.
Okay, this one here, you know, you talk about the friendship and the camaraderie. I got my arm around our good friend Rusty Rex.
Mm-hmm.
Rusty is becoming a mainstay and a stalwart at these events. Just as you know him, Chris, just the nicest, most amiable guy in the world. Give you the shirt off his back. Super guy to hang out with and talk. To my right and your left, that is Brian Gardner. Brian, local guy here, does some security for Midwest All-Star Wrestling. He was the driver down to the event. And next to him is Joe Macko. And Joe, who at various times was referred to either as Santa Claus or Jerry Garcia. Kind of a combination of both.
I could see it.
Oh, yeah. And Joe Macko also, there must be something about the name Joe and Gable Beer, because he was kind of keeping up with Chupik. Boom, 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 you know, the whole way through. But Joe Macko is the guy that refereed as Stan Gagne in the old Pro Wrestling America promotion. So he last working Gagne in the wrestling business. But it was so great going down with Joe and Brian. Great guys, talked a lot of wrestling, both coming and going. Yeah, they were great travel companions. Super guys.
Okay, so I have to come clean and admit the only reason that I drank was because Joe was kind enough to buy 2 12-packs of Gable beer. So what do you do when somebody offers you a beer? What are you going to do? Say no, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're such a good man, Joe. I don't know if you've heard that, but I mean, my admiration.
Well, I think
put on a little chapstick, will you, while you're kissing his ass?
Well, I thank Joe tremendously for the beers, and just a great guy to talk to and hang around with for the weekend. And of course, he has a fantastic first name. It looks like Santa Claus and had free beer. It was a win-win-win.
All right, we got about 10 minutes left here. Tell me about the Waterloo screw job.
You know, there's something about us. There's something about either guys coming in from Minnesota or old AWA guys that the cards, the table is stacked against us.
We've never had a clean trivia weekend. Like
this
never.
was the worst. This
Really?
was by
Ooh.
far the worst. First of
Okay.
all,
Tell
they
me.
had no AWA questions.
Talk to me, Goose.
None. Zero. No AWA questions
Well,
whatsoever.
that's bullshit.
Which, of course, it is. So automatically, we're starting 10 yards before the starting line. Then, of all things, we're keeping tally. We're given you answer a question, you hand it in, and boom, 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 they add up your points.
Mm-hmm.
There was the first 10 questions. I believe we had missed one of the first 10 questions. They only gave us credit for 4. All of a sudden, the answers that we're turning in the right answer. And it's like, wait a minute. How come we only have 60 points? We're supposed to have 160
Yeah.
points. We absolutely got screwed.
They did correct themselves and gave us some of the points back, but I still think we were shorted a few.
That's wrestling math. Wrestling math.
It was horrible. And, and this wasn't even a case where Tina Mercer, called you on, checking in with your wife, Chris. I mean, this was a pretty horrible.
I didn't want you to out her. I wanted the name to stay.
No, you mentioned her earlier.
Yeah,
you already mentioned her. So but no, we were screwed. And what happened was, towards the end of it, we didn't have a chance in hell of even cracking the top whatever at that point because they had fucked us out of our points. So we just kind of threw in the towel, didn't really care anymore. The answer slips that I was turning in were covered with the beer and booze and everything else.
Yeah.
So,
Hawaiian punch.
Yeah, Hawaiian punch that I was drinking. But it left a bad taste in my mouth. We didn't get a chance to win one of those grab bags of Waterloo memorabilia. And that's killer. That is just killer.
Man, wrestling's fixed. I knew wrestling. I knew wrestling was predetermined. I didn't know wrestling trivia was predetermined.
They stacked the cards against us. I'm telling you, this was absolutely sabotage, pure sabotage.
I guess next year we got to be it's got to be the 3-man crew, right? Third man.
Absolutely
coming through. Okay.
Well, but you know what? Hey, we had Joe and Woody, or Joyce and Woody.
Joyce and Woody. Well, yeah, that was good.
Didn't make any difference. Didn't make any difference.
See, it didn't bother me as much because it gave me the opportunity to have more lemonade.
When you don't care, you can drink
the world
lemonade.
gives you lemons and you make lemonade. In my case, you drink it.
Would you say the world gives you almonds and you make lemonade?
It's
almonds.
Oh, I thought you said almonds. Now I wasn't listening.
Lemons.
Oh, lemons. Okay. Sorry, I wasn't listening. Go ahead, Mick.
Nobody else is either at this point.
Yeah, we've gone over an hour. We've asked for 5 more minutes.
Yeah, this was really bad. The only thing that we didn't do was a Bret Hart go spit in the face of the guy that was tallying the totals at the end. But
then you needed to do the AWA.
Yep. No question about it. We got hosed.
All right. Well, we got to talk to Chad about that. And then finally, the silent auction. Got about 5 minutes here.
I love this one.
Let me tell you about the silent auction. They do this every year to raise money for the Dan Gable Museum and for the Hall of Fame. And then, there's various wrestling memorabilia all over the place, old pictures, programs, whatever it might be. They had some pretty decent stuff, including plaques from the old museum that they are replacing with new plaques. So they like Larry Hennig, for example. And I use that specifically for this story. I bid on the Larry Hennig plaque, and it was a starting bid of $60. Not bad. And I figure, okay, well, you know what? Maybe this will last for a little while. So I bid 60, left for a couple hours, come back, and there's somebody standing right in front of the Larry Hennig plaques. Somebody I hadn't seen for a while. I extended my hand, said, "How you doing?" And the guy, the first thing that prick said to me, "I outbid you." And not only did he say it, but he had this fiendish, sick grin on his face. And I want to can we get the picture of this asshole up on the screen? The guy that outbid me. there he is. And wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you know, as fate would have it, the fickle fucking finger of fate, George Shire.
Frugal fucking finger
Absolutely.
of fate.
George Shire.
Frugal fucking finger of fate.
He was so happy to tell me that he outbid me. You know, and I looked and I said, let me look. And sure enough, he had gone to $80. Not only that, but he said, and I want you to know, and he's doing this gleefully, Chris. He said, I want you to know that if you raise my bid, I'm going to raise you again. He said, I don't care how high I have to go. I'm going home with that plaque. I believe he eventually did. You know, like he needs more shit at home from the wrestling world. But it wasn't so much that he outbid me, Chris. It was like, first of all people that was going to outbid me, of course it was going to be George Shire. And this guy was like Larry Nelson, blaster interview orgasm that he can outbid me. And here's what I hope when Shire is hanging Larry Hennig's plaque on his wall that he hits his thumb with a hammer.
I will say that George was so gleeful that he did that initial raise from 60 to 80. He comes over to me and makes sure to tell me the story as soon as it gets out of the room. And of course, I just say, well, you know, alligator arms, Mick could have just gone up to like 200 that he got it.
Shire would have gone into his life savings in order to outbid me.
But Mick, it's a silent auction, first of all. What you should have bid 180 just to make him pay 200 or more for it.
I had no idea this prick was going to go in and I didn't even know he was in the building. And then all of a sudden I see him standing in front of Larry Hennig. You know, it's him and Larry Hennig. If he's not sitting in his house, he having a beer with Larry Hennig, he's taking a plaque away from me.
Anyway. I thought it would have been funnier if it would have been like $1, like Price is Right.
Now, yeah, don't give him any ideas because he'll probably be back next year and screw me out of something else. But on the overall, Chris, it was such a fun trip. We had a great time and looking forward to doing it next year with you coming along.
All right. And last picture here, guys, and got to take it home. They're telling me to wrap it up. What's this all about?
This is an artist's conception rather than flash photography. This was an artist's conception of me at the hotel bar appetizer time at about 10 o'clock, where Lenise Hennig and I ordered some appetizers, assuming that the table was going to share them with us. Well, systematically, the people at the table got up and left. And this is me probably about halfway through the appetizers. I appreciate the fact that I have dark hair in the artist's conception. But yeah, that was me bloated and ready to go home.
First of all, it was about midnight. Second of all, they ordered, let's see, burnt tip ends, quesadilla, nachos. There were onion rings, a couple of orders of chicken tenders with fries. I'm looking at them and I'm pissed. And they're like, why are you pissed? Well, you guys went out and smoked and got stoned to the bejesus and got the munchies and you didn't invite me?
Believe me, I'm still feeling the effects of it to this day.
I bet you all that fried food.
Little rough.
All right, let's give some shout outs and take it home.
My friend Joyce Poston. Joyce, we've had her on the show. She is a grand lady. She is as the salt of the earth as far as I'm concerned. And Joyce and I have a connection, and she told me a couple of things before we parted ways that really touched me seriously. And Joycey, you know how I feel about you. Joyce Poston.
And my shout out is not a blind dart throw this week. Somebody that I had the pleasure of meeting He is, from what I understand, he has the foremost Andre the Giant memorabilia collection. Had the pleasure of having lunch with him on a Saturday afternoon before the banquet, and to talk with him about several things with Andre. And yes, Chris, I've got his contact info. And yes, I asked him if he'd be on the podcast. And yes, he will be on our podcast to talk all things Andre the Giant. And that person I'm talking about is Chris Owens.
And he's just a humble dude to boot. Like, just a really good, personable thing. And kind of like a lot of people, it's a family thing. Like, he and his wife are down there, and Brian, it's like it's kind of fun, to see. Yeah, Chris is a good dude. Anthony Cefalu is one of our recent pinfall members, and thank you, Anthony. And I will be in touch about getting some information out to you if you've signed up to be a pinfall member. First of all, if you have not subscribed to the podcast, definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel, rate, review, just help us get into the algorithm and help us kind of move up the chart a little bit. Also, if you want to be a pinfall member, the link is in the description of the video. And we'd love to have you as a member of our pinfall, because you get a lot for $4.99. Best value in wrestling podcasting. I can say that without a doubt.
No doubt about it. And, in conclusion, thanks to Chad Olson for taking care of us. And, man, did he deliver on bringing us into Waterloo and taking care of us when we were there. Outstanding work by everybody involved, and the fans that came up and approached us. Can't thank you enough. It really is heartwarming when you get the accolades from the fans.
Yeah, I second that. And I know usually we end off our podcast with some little quip or some little shot at each other. I'm not going to do that this week, because I want to pay the tribute to the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, the George Tragos Thesz Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. Fantastic job, fantastic weekend. I can't wait to next year. If you are even considering going, I'm telling you, get your asses down there next year, because it is worth the trip.
Joe, that might be the only time in your life that you've ever passed up a shot.